I realized this week that I don't ever get up here and say good morning. I just get started. I'm nervous and excited, and I don't ever say good morning, everybody. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you all had a good week. I have a few, like most people, favorite Bible verses or Bible stories or things, and usually when I'm writing something, I almost always go to my favorite verses. I've tried to hold back from them because I don't want to share my favorite right off the bat, but it's been 6 weeks or 2 months or something like that, and well, I'm there. These are some of my favorite Bible stories that I'm going to talk about today. One of them is in 2 Kings, to where the king of Aram, he was furious over, the king of Aram was at war with the king of the Israelites. And it seemed like every time he would plan something or plan to be somewhere, the king of the Israelites already knew what King Aram was doing. And he drew all his people together, he brought them all together, and he says, how is this? How is it that every time I make a plan, they're already one step ahead of me, they already know? And his officers told him that, he was asking, who is it? Who's telling? And they said, it's not us. It's the man of God, Elisha. It's the prophet Elisha. He goes to the king of Israel. He knows the things that you speak in your very own bedroom, the things that you speak in private. The king of the Israelites is told this by Elijah. In 2 Kings 6:12, gotta say hi to my buddy up there. Hey, 2 Kings 6:12, none of us, my lord the king, said one of the officers, but Elijah the prophet, who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the very words you speak in your bedroom. Did you catch that? He knew what was being discussed in a place as secret as his very own bedroom. As a prophet, Elijah got his information straight from God. God knows what the enemy has planned for us, even when it is planned in a secret place. Even when Satan is off in secret, planning something against you, God knows. God knows the good and the bad. He knows where your life is going. We need to trust in God in that way. The king of Aram decided he needed to send men to capture Elijah. When they discovered where Elijah was, they sent horses and chariots and strong forces by night to surround the city. When a servant of Elijah's got up early in the morning and found the city surrounded, he asked Elijah, what shall we do? And Elijah said, don't be afraid. When you wake up and you see the enemy all around, or when you're in a place and you feel like there's no way out, Elijah says, don't be afraid. In 2 Kings 6:17, this right here is one of my very favorite verses. I like this story, but I like this story particularly because of this verse. 2 Kings 6:17, and Elijah prayed, open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes and looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around him. The Lord opened the servant's eyes. Just imagine it. Just imagine all these prayer requests that we just brought forth this morning. And there's many more things in the world that people feel held down, or they feel Satan is just coming in so much. Just imagine, and it's there, this is real. In my mind, this is real. Imagine looking out the window right now, and everywhere, all around, there's chariots of fire. God's army is all around. All those prayer requests that we have, the things that we bring to God, there is an army ready to take care of those things. A great battle is about to happen. Everyone could see that. It's moments like these that I pray for God to open my eyes. I've talked about how God has opened the eyes of my compassion, but now I want to talk about opening the eyes so I can see what others need. Not simply what they might need as far as money can buy, but also what they might need me to say. Just a simple word. Sometimes I think people just simply need to hear an encouraging word. This is what I want my eyes to be open to, for God to help me say those words in and at the exact right moment. I'm sure at different times, not to poke fun at age, but because there are older people here, people come to us sometimes and they want to know, I need some advice. You know, you may have lived through this, or you may know somebody that has lived through this. And so at times we all are asked, hey, you got anything for me? And this is what I pray for. Probably more than anything, for God to give me insight, to just give me words to encourage them. We don't know how each individual person is brought up. We don't know how each individual person has grown in their walk with Christ. We don't know how Satan has dealt with people or how Christ has dealt with people. Everybody is so different. So when they come to you, they may know you have lived through something similar. And they think, well, maybe they can give me advice. I really pray that at those moments, God gives me the advice that they need to hear. Not from what I had lived through, but advice that proper words, the right words for someone to hear. Not because I will know them, but I want God to give them to me. I'm going to switch to David here now. Another one of my favorite characters in the Bible. I hate to call them characters because they're real people. But I like the story of David. David was the youngest of Jesse's sons, and he was most often out in the fields tending to the sheep. So when the Philistines gathered their army for war against the Israelites, David wouldn't have been called upon to fight because he would have been out tending the sheep. In 1 Samuel 17, 10 and 11, the Philistine, the giant, the Philistine said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man, and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. See, they had got together, one on one side of a valley and the other on the other side of the valley, and there was a war that was going to happen. But the Philistines had said, they knew they had Goliath. They knew one-on-one, they thought they knew, one-on-one, there was nobody that could defeat Goliath. So they were challenging them, hey, we don't need all of this death. Just send one person out. One person to fight Goliath. And Goliath was out there, as men do. He was a giant, so I'm sure he had a lot of words. He was taunting them and, come on, man, let's do this, or, kind of thing. Now let's go to 1 Samuel 17, 32 through 36. This is why I picked this. I just love this portion of Scripture. David says to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go outside against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine." I love that. David was just sent to take food to his brothers and to collect information to take back to his dad to say, hey, this is what's going on. He wasn't there to fight, but he just couldn't stand to hear that Philistine putting down the army of God, the chosen people of God, saying, you're not, whatever he was saying, you're not worth it. You can't take me on, putting them down. This young man, he thought, I ain't going to put up with that. David didn't like Goliath mocking God's chosen people without God even showing David how, or even if he would be there to protect him. David was willing to go to battle. The eyes of David's heart were open to what God could do. David's heart was open to doing what needed to be done. Even when nobody was asking him to do it. In fact, some were discouraging him, trying to convince him not to fight Goliath. And those who were trying to convince him were his own brothers. David showed tremendous faith to go into battle against a giant without any insight from God as to whether or not God would bring him a victory. How can that be? How can it be that Elijah can say, open his eyes, and a servant can see the army of angels around him, and David goes into battle with just a sling and a stone? What do you do with that? When one person's eyes can be open and the other person goes into battle with just a sling and a stone and no idea what the outcome might be. Should we follow the way Elijah did and ask God for insight into how he plans on winning the battle for us? Or should we do as David did and take what little we have and march right up to a giant and say, let's do this? When you're trying to figure out in life, what does God want me to do? Should I wait for him to show me his army, or should I just by faith march into battle? You see, like David, we sometimes go into battle with no armor, or at least not the normal armor people think of when you are going into battle. David put the king's armor and helmet on, but took them right back off again because he wasn't used to them and couldn't move in them. When you put something on, even just an article of clothing that might be restricting, you just can't move right. And especially if you're going to work or something, or you're going to be fighting and you need to move around, you just can't be restricted. When you're used to doing things a certain way, that's how you want to do it. When David would go out and fight the lions and bears, he didn't have any armor on, so he wasn't used to that. Opening our eyes to see can mean different things to different people. I'm sure you have sang the song, Open the Eyes of My Heart, Lord. Elijah wanted his servant to physically see what was going on around him. In David's case, the eyes of his heart, his faith, is all he needed to be opened. Now I want to talk a little bit about Job. Earlier I had said that Elijah knew the things that were said in secret. And when it comes to Job, Job 2 verse 3, then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason. Job doesn't know what is being said in secret, the conversation between God and Satan, but he still maintains his integrity in spite of Satan's attempts to ruin him. There's a conversation going on there. Sometimes we feel as though, sometimes you just feel like, I think they were talking about me. Or things will be said and you're like, well, you're not supposed to know that. You must have been talking to so-and-so. People are talking about me behind my back. That's kind of what was going on with Job. But in God's case, if God is talking about you, it's never to hurt you. Elijah knew the things that were said in secret in the privacy of King Aaron's bedroom. God knows every conversation ever spoken. Satan himself cannot do anything to us without God knowing it. Whether our eyes are opened or shut, God knows what is going on in our lives. It is no secret that Satan wants us to fail. It is no secret that Satan may try time and time again to try to make us unhappy. We don't always know the things that are said in secret. Quite honestly, if it's a secret, we don't ever know what is going on in secret. If we knew, it wouldn't be a secret. There are times that our eyes will never be open to what is going on. Elijah's servant saw with his eyes. David saw with his heart. But often our situations are more like Job. Job probably felt like God left him hanging without any help or guidance. And a lot of times we feel the same way. But like Job, we must maintain our integrity, even when it seems as though Satan is trying to ruin us without any reason. Now, real quick, for anybody that might not know about Job, he was an upright person. And Satan was saying, well, the only reason he is because his life is good. Let me hurt him in his life, and then we'll see how much he follows you. So all these things gradually happened to Job. And along the steps, Satan would say, well, yeah, but you only took away this thing. But he's still going to follow you because the rest of his life is good. So God let Satan take another thing from him, and then another thing, and another thing, and another thing. And throughout in there, Job did say, kind of like, what's going on? But still, he remained upright and followed Christ. Even his wife said, just say no. Just say, I don't trust you anymore, God. I don't believe in you anymore, God, and it will go away. And Job said, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to share another short story. There will be a conclusion at the end. That the story's good, but I love the conclusion. It's called Letting Go, Faith and Trust in God. One day, a man was being chased by a tiger. He was running as hard as he could. At last, he reached the edge of a cliff, and the tiger was still behind him. He looked down the cliff and found that there was a branch growing out of the side of the cliff, just a few feet down. He jumped off the cliff and grabbed that branch. Just then, a mouse came out of a space near the branch and began to chew on it. Wouldn't that be how it would go? Now the man was scared to see that there was a 1,000-foot drop below, and he would surely be dead if he fell from that height. The frightened man looked at the sky and yelled, "Dear God, please help me. Please save me. I will do anything you ask me to do." Suddenly, a voice came booming from the sky and questioned, "You will do anything I ask?" The man was shocked to hear a reply and answered, "I will do anything, but please save me." The voice from the sky replied, "There is only one way to save you, but it will take courage and faith. Can you do what I ask? Do you have faith?" The man was too scared as he saw the branch was beginning to fall and the tiger was still growling at the top of the cliff. So he replied, "Please, God, tell me what to do. I'll do whatever you say. Your will is my will." The voice from heaven said, "All right then, let go of that branch." After a long silence, the man looked again at the 1,000-foot drop below him, then looked up to the sky again and yelled, "Is there anyone else up there?" Now, this is obviously a joke, but it has an important lesson. We need to remember to trust God with our whole heart. Without God, we lack eternal perspective. Our view is dim and our insight is confined by our narrow range of experience. It's about trusting God even when we can't see what's ahead for us. We must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so as to have the life that God has waiting for us. As we as things happen, as we are affected by the world, as the world is affected by itself, everything that is going on in the world, all of the unrest, this person says this thing, this person says this thing, no, you're wrong, and a fight breaks out. Sometimes we don't know, we will never know, like Job, what God wants us to do. There isn't going to be an Elijah there to say, open their eyes, and then you see, oh, that's what's going to happen. That's, as far as I know in the Bible, that's happened once. Elijah opened somebody's eyes and they saw. We are called to be like David, to just go into battle and fight, not knowing what might be happening. Thank you. Let us pray.